This is the HaltingWinter Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Winterhalter. Today we start a 3-part series. I want to talk about the game of life. We talked a little bit about this last time, but I want to do a 3-part series. I'm really chewing on this because it's something I'm chewing on in my own life, like something that when I look at kind of not just business, but all the aspects of life, all the things that I'm doing, like the reality is, if you see it as a game, if you see it as this thing that's laid out that has a result, a purpose, it takes a strategy, I think you actually live with more intention. The more we just like let life happen, or we play someone else's game, we do things according to what other people's rules, what other people think is valuable or their end destination. I think we have to think about this. And what got me started on this was a few months ago, I'm listening to Alex Hormozi, his podcast, which is titled The Game. He talks about the game of business. And I started chewing on that idea of just the game of business and how business is a game and how you have to really detach emotionally. And I don't remember if he talked about this specifically, but I was thinking about myself and even where I was at with my business and what was going on. And I just looked and I said, man, the more I get emotionally attached, the more I find emotionally attached in a way that says like this, like identity wise, right? This has to succeed or else I feel like I'm a failure, or I feel like this has to grow. It has to become this, or else something's wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not successful enough, or right. All those things that I think happen to many of us, especially those of us who own our businesses, who are really trying to grow them, to impact people's lives with them. And so I started to think about this concept. And so I'm kind of going to use the podcast as both a thing for me to process through. And hopefully that helps someone that's listening to maybe process through your own journey. And maybe this will help you both be able to detach a little bit from your business so that you can grow, so that you can actually be more impactful. Because I think some of these connections, while it's good, like this isn't a black and white. It isn't a just be totally emotionally absent from your business. It's just a total game. It's just a total strategy. Because I think if you go there, you become kind of cold maybe to your customers, cold to yourself. I think you can become a person that just cares about the bottom line, and that's radically unhealthy. If you're too invested, you won't risk. You'll take everything so personally, right? Especially if you have anything to do with sales. You have to be careful of the emotional investment, because every no, every declined email, every booked call that someone doesn't show up for, you can start to really feel the toll of that. And you feel like, well, what's wrong with me? And again, it's very little of it has anything to do with you. It has to do with them. It has to do with their time. It has to do with their urgency. It has to do with a lot of things that, again, if we see it as a game, we can actually get better at. But if we take it personally, man, it sabotages us. And I just wonder, because I work with a lot of small, medium-sized business owners, I wonder if the reality of why so many small businesses close every year is because people took it too seriously. They took it too seriously, meaning in an unhealthy way. They became too emotionally invested, and they weren't actually able to strategize well. They weren't able to make some of the choices, or take some of the risks, or see it in a strategical way that would actually allow them to have success, because they were too in the weeds of it. So that's what I'm chewing on. And again, here's what maybe makes this podcast series, this 3-part series I want to chew on, unique, is I'm not just looking at the game of business. I want you to think about the game of life, because business cannot be the whole sum of your life. I think for some people that's very tempting. Work is the dominant thing. And let's be honest, work, especially if you are a provider for your house, whether you're the sole provider or whether you're married and both of you work. A lot of people nowadays, both of you have to work. You have to work very significant jobs to be able to afford your life, especially the closer you live to an urban environment, the more it probably takes 2 people to pay for the expenses, especially if you have kids. And so you may both work may be a significant part of your life, and it probably will be if you work, especially if you're in any kind of leadership. because there's a responsibility. You don't get to just clock off 9 to 5. You don't get to clock in and clock off, and it doesn't really matter because you just do what's required, and you get a paycheck and benefits from that. The more responsibility you have, the more ownership you have of that business in its success, and especially not just the ownership of the business, but part of that business is people. And so the success, once you have the responsibility of payroll, wow, that is a weight. That is a weight, and that impacts all the elements of the business and how they thrive. And so the other reality is just time. Like, you go to work for 8 hours a day. That's significant. The only thing that equals that is probably your sleep. And the reality is, if you work 8 hours a day, you probably work more than that, because now we have all these devices that keep us connected to our work. And so you're working 8, 10, maybe more hours a day. You're sleeping 6 to 7 hours. Those are the two things that drive your life, your work and your recovery from that. And this is why I want you to see the totality of your life as a game, because you've got to strategize, not just work. Some people, okay, well, I got to strategize. I got to nail work, but then they nail work to the detriment of the other areas of their life. Or they say, you know what? When my work gets to this level, then I'll feel comfortable. Then I'll make enough to be able to pour my extra time into the other areas of life, my spouse, my children, my hobbies. I work with a handful of people right now who are in their mid to late 50s, who are looking at retirement, who have made all of these people make their companies make well over $5 million, closer to $10 million in annual revenue a year, and they have not nailed it yet. And it goes to show, once you get in the mode, once you get into that habit, once you ingrain the habits of, I'm going to get there one day, but I got to grind now. You create the habit of grinding, and you can't get out of it. You can. You just, A, you probably don't know how, and B, sometimes you won't allow things to be shed off your plate. You won't change your rhythms and habits. So that's what I want to talk about today is the game of life. How do we live? How do we see the totality of life as a game to be played, to be enjoyed, but to be strategized if you want to win? And I think the people listening to this podcast want to win. And what does that mean to win? I'm not talking about you need to be better than others. You need to win at others. You need to win for you. What does that game look like? What does success look like? What would it look like for you to win at the game of life? And again, it's not a competition to others, because most other people aren't even playing your game, right? Your game has got to be up to you. And that's why I'm talking about the game of life, not just business. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want? Do you want to be married? Do you want children? Do you want grandchildren? Do you want hobbies? Do you want what are the elements of your life? What does your lifestyle look like? There are all these questions you have to answer for yourself that determine then the outcomes, the desired outcomes, and the rules and the boundaries and the barriers of your specific game. And the more you know that for yourself, the more you'll be able to, A, tune out the other games that people might want you to play, or people might assume that you're playing, and get you off track of your game. And the more you're actually able to strategize and win your game. So this is why I think it's important to do this. So again, this is the HaltingWinter Podcast. I'm Seth Winterhalter. I want to encourage you, if you're someone, especially if you're a business owner and you want to grow your business, you want to see your business not only grow in its scale, but especially in its revenue, because I believe that, again, the pursuit of money is not a bad thing. You should want to grow your revenue, because revenue, cash, is what actually allows your business to grow. You can invest that into your employees. You can invest that into your products. You can impact more customers with what you're doing. And I think that is when your business actually is significant, when it plays an impactful, significant role in the lives of people. It solves people's problems. And so you have to do that with cash. Like, unicorns don't come along and do that for your business. Cash does. And so we should never apologize for making cash. We should never apologize for charging for our products. That is a good thing. Giving stuff away for free is, you give crap away for free, right? Let's just be real honest. If I gave, I used to do some health coaching, And, I got a lot of pushback. Oh, it's so expensive. And I'm like, you know why it's expensive? Because results are expensive. If you don't invest, you won't stick with it. And I'm going to ask you to eat and live in a particular way that an investment has to keep you in the game. If you pay $50 a month for this, you're going to tap out because you spend $50 a week at Starbucks. And so you will tap out because the investment will be so cheap. That is why I have no problem A, charging high prices, or B, paying high prices for things that will actually give me the result that I want. Like, what's frustrating is when I pay a lot of money and I don't get the results that I was told. That is highly frustrating. But I think if you actually deliver, then charge, because people will actually, they will love it because you've actually solved problems. So they'll never complain about having their problem solved if they agree to that price. And B, you should be rewarded for the hard work that you've invested into solving real problems. So, okay, that's a whole nother podcast. Let's dive in. Let's go. Anyway, just encouraging you, if I can be of any help in your business, in your personal life, in your professional life, in helping you soar higher, farther, faster, hit me up, HaltingWinter.com, HaltingWinter.com. Would love to chat. Okay, the game of life. Let's just think first about the reality of where we are today in 2023. Like, version 1 of the game of life for humans was survive. That was the game that we played, right? Don't get eaten today. The Jurassic Park game. Version 2 was when we started to kind of evolve, right? It wasn't just don't get eaten. It was now we can actually grow crops. I mean, obviously, something happened in the evolution, right? Again, dinosaurs were wiped out, but obviously there were other creatures. We migrated away from a lot of the fear of lions and tigers and bears and whatever. Something happened where we could grow crops, where we could do things to actually survive, not in a just survival mode, but in an evolution mode, in a mode where we could grow and we could level up our life in a more peaceful, tranquil way. So we had survival mode, version 1. We had evolution mode, version 2, where we started to not just have to survive, but we could actually live and develop. And that's really version 3. Version 3 is now we're developing. We're not just agricultural survival, not just surviving from attack, but surviving by eating, by creating crops, by creating things. But we're now developing. We have commerce. We have trade now. We have different kinds of crops where we're able to trade. We have different kinds of things where we can barter. We have retail, the idea of commerce. Version 4 then is when we begin to industrialize, where we begin to see it's not just solopreneurs providing their crops, providing their thing, a band of small people working together to do things. Now we are doing mass production, right? This is the industrialization age. We have the assembly line. We are producing things in a scope that is just really, to think about that, how overwhelming would that be to go from, providing for the limited area around you to now like providing mass production. And again, the birth of the industrial age is longer than just the manufacturer, like a huge manufacturing facility. It happens with just the way crops, all of a sudden one person owns thousands and thousands of acres and we're shipping that all over. Anyway, interesting if you look at history. So we have survival, we have evolution, we have development, we have industrialization, and really now, and again, I'm just doing a very surface level overview of kind of our development as a human species. But today, by 2023, man, we are in just this thriving area where you get to choose your own adventure. I mean, before, how many people just did whatever their parents did? It wasn't even thought of like, well, I don't want to be a candle maker. I'm going to go like. That's a relatively new thought. I mean, it happened. Like if you read history, you read various people, again, not a lot, but you'll read significant people in history that chose a different path, that their parents wanted to be a lawyer and they chose this instead and made a significant mark, even in a field that, different kind of things. But now, like, we don't even it's almost like assumed you're not going to carry on your parents' business. It's like, oh, of course, I'm going to go blaze my own trail. And so you get to choose whatever adventure. Here's the crazy thing about life. Now, how many people, when they get to middle age, just choose a whole different adventure? I mean, this is my story. I spent the first 10 years of my life as an orchestral conductor, spent the next 10 years of my life as a lead pastor. Now I'm spending this next season, don't know how long it's going to be. I imagine this is, I think, the culmination of what I've wanted to do with my whole life, and that is coach people in their person and in their profession, specifically business owners and leaders, high-level achievers, to take it up a notch, to really maximize their life. I love working with people who are driven to maximize their life. I love, I know what I don't love, and that is people who want to make excuses, people who want everything to be done for them. I spent a lot of my life working with that, working with some of those kind of people, and it drained everything out of me. I know in this period of my life, I have no interest. There are a lot of other people that can work with those people. That's not me. And that's not me being like braggadocious or, oh, I don't know, you people are beneath me. It's not that. It's not that at all. Like, it takes all kinds of people to make the world turn. I just know who I want to work with and who it feels good to work with. And that's people who are driven. People who, and you don't have to be driven to like, I'm not talking about like, oh, I only work if you're a famous person. That's not what I mean at all. Like, I could care less if you have fame or not. I just care that you're driven. And maybe you're driven to start a family and work a 9-to-5 job and just like, great. Like, I'm not saying you got to be some special person, some sports all-star or something to be like driven. You can be, that's what we're talking about today, the game of life. You can be driven to anything. Do you have a plan? Do you know what game you're playing so you can put your energy and effort into that? That's what I want. And that's what I hope this podcast will do, is tell you, stop being driven towards the game that everyone says is the most popular. You know what's the most popular? To become a CEO, to become a C-suite executive, and to make this level of money, and to have this kind of house and these kind of toys and this kind of cars and blah, 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 blah. That's what success looks like. Humbug to that, right? Baloney to that, BS to that, whatever you want to call it. It's that has nothing to do. That's one person's vision of success, written out of what? And so be careful that you're not playing someone else's game. Be careful that you have thought through, what game are you playing? What is important to you? What does that look like? And don't think that you can't be driven to a 9-to-5 job that just pays the bills, provides benefits so you can love on your family. Your vision of heightened success may be a simple home in a simple suburban area, being able to come home and turn off work and love on your kids and have tickling competitions every night, and just like, right? Like, what some people might look as simplicity, you might see as a glorious heaven. And that's awesome. You should see it that way, and you should articulate it out, focus yourself, apply yourself so that you can make that the best version of what that could be. That is your game. And that game to you is the highest game that you can play. And you should play it well. Okay? Versus the Shark Tank person who wants to be an entrepreneur and make billions of dollars and buy a yacht or buy an island. Who knows? Again, if you pulled 100 of the richest people in the world and told them and said, what is success to you? You'd have 100 different versions. It's not the same for each of them. And so we have to be careful, again, not to play someone else's game. What game are you playing? What game are you playing? So think about life. Think about how we've evolved. Think about how the game has changed for our ancestors. And now, right, this game is even changing for us. Like, you grew up, you were in high school. Everyone asked you, where are you going to college? Where are you going to college? And it was a disappointment to have to go to a trade school. It was a disappointment to have to go to a community college. Like, everyone wanted to go to Yale or Harvard or some Ivy League because that was the game. That was success. And now look at it. Now it's like, why am I going to college? Like, to get a 4-year degree that shows that I can still wake up on time by myself and go to classes. And do I need that? Can I just go to work? Can I just go make money? Can I I mean, there's so many other options now. Can I do an 18-month training program and then go? Like, there's so many options. Choose your own adventure. People going and getting a 4-year degree and then 10 years later going, I can't even find work in that field, let alone I don't even like the work in that field. Let's change it up again. Like, all kinds of options for you, all kinds of opportunities. The 21st century is a century of disruption. We are questioning, and I love this, we're questioning the versions of life. We're questioning the game. And you have to ask yourself some questions like this. Well, what makes you happy? What makes you fulfilled? We're delaying marriage. We're delaying having children. We're even considering not having children. Not even considering, a lot of people aren't having children. We have multiple career paths. We live in the day of the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week. Like, that is what a lot of people aspire to. And this is where you have, and just look at how much has changed, because you have three, you probably have more than three, but let's just say you have three key generations inside the workplace right now. You have baby boomers who are on their way out of the workplace and into retirement. You have Gen X, that's me. That's this whole kind of lost generation. We don't know who we are, what we are. You have millennials. You have, what's the term under millennials? Is millennials? You have 3, if not 4, key generations in the workplace right now, and you have a wide spectrum. On one end, you have the stereotypical baby boomer who is very independent, very like, I do things my way, and it's my way or the highway, and I will never ask for help because I need to prove myself. I need to prove that I'm good at this, and I'm just going to bury my head and get it done. You have that attitude, and you have the youngest, millennial, whatever, who says like, why would I just work all the time for no result? Like, I want to enjoy life. And so on one hand, the young person looks incredibly lazy and the old person looks like a tyrant, and these people can't, and you have the people in the middle going like, what are we doing? What game are we playing? Like, does this even make sense anymore? Like, why are we still playing Mastermind? Do you remember that game, Mastermind, from like the 70s? Why are we still playing this game? Why are we playing the game of life, right? Are you familiar with the board game? It's called Life. And why are we still like going to college when that kind of debt just seems pointless and purposeless? Like, what are we doing here? We're questioning the game, and that's good. That's what we need to do, is start asking ourselves the right kind of question. Things have changed, and those things are neither good and bad. That's the problem, is you often hear old people, again, it doesn't matter what generation you are. When you get old, you will all say, you'll look at the new world and say, oh, things have changed. It's gotten for the worse. You know, I remember growing up and my grandparents, I don't know how you guys live today. Just things of just civilization's just getting worse. And it's like every generation says the same things. Can I help you here? It's not worse. It's not bad or good. Those are all moral terms that are very highly subjective. Like, how about this? How about things change, and let's figure out how to honor the life that we want to pursue. Let's figure out what would actually bring fulfillment, and maybe that's different than the people around us. And hey, that's okay. I think the key is we're not telling people to play the game that we want to play. That's the key in all aspects. You look all over the political spectrum, the moral spectrum. I think the problem is when we start telling people they have to play our game. We tend to moralize what we fear. And guess what? We fear change. Humans fear change. But what if normal is killing you? What if that... What if you're... I think a lot of bitterness and anger is because we were forced to play a game we didn't want to play, and now we wake up to that and we have bitterness. We have envy. Maybe that's the issue. Baby boomers look at their life and go, I worked hard for this, and now the younger generation just wants to be TikTok stars, and they want to. What are they making all this money? How are they making this money? Like, what are they doing? It seems like, man, that seems like an easy life, and so they're jealous. It's like, I gave my life. I missed out on. Well, guess what? You chose that. And maybe it was a reality. I don't know. I'm not here to judge and say, well, and give judgments into if if you did it right or you did it wrong. That's only for you. But here's the reality. Maybe you had to. But guess what? That shouldn't make you upset at someone else's benefit. Even Alex Hormozy said this. He says, we should be making it easier for the generations under us. They should have an easier time, a quicker time to succeed than we did. It should take us longer than it takes them because we should pave the way, right? When you pave the way to something, right? Just think about that. I'm paving the way. Well, if it's a trail and I'm setting pavement, the people after me should be able to go at a much faster speed. And I can't be mad at that. I can't be jealous of that. I can't be envious of that. That's foolishness. Stop paving the way then. Just go live in the jungle by yourself. So what do we do? Here's where we're going to take the podcast. We're going to give you 3 things to do to be able to help you see what game you're playing, help you strategize then how to play your game well, and number 3, how to then act according to the game that you're playing. So the podcast coming up, we're going to dive into the 3 aspects. How do we assess? How do we strategize? And how do we act so that we can play the game that we want to play to the best of our abilities in order to hopefully win, to win at the game of life. So if that's interesting to you, tune in for the next 2 podcasts. I want you to start thinking about the game. Think about the game. Think about what is life for me? What kind of life do I want to live? We do this, the book back here behind me, Don Miller wrote Hero on a Mission, and it's about really capitalizing on your life. It's about seeing your life as a hero on a mission. And we always start that project with you writing your obituary. Think about the end, think about the end, and then let's reverse engineer our way back so that we can live in according to the life we want to live, the life we want to lead. And so it takes some work though. You got to think about where are your assumptions? Where have you been pushed to think in a certain way, to want certain things, to live in accordance with certain, again, truths. Are they really truth? I don't know. You got to figure that out. There's a lot of truths that aren't really truths. They're truths for people who want to believe them as true. You need to figure out what you believe. There are certain truths. You will die. That's a truth. But there's a lot of other things that are truths in light of what we want to believe, but they're not necessarily truths for everyone. And so be careful. Be careful that you're not living someone else's story. Be careful that you're not playing someone else's game. Let's figure out what game we want to play, and let's play it all out. My name is Seth Winterhalter. This is the HaltingWinter Podcast. Again, tune in next time as we then lay out how to assess, how to strategize, and how to act. See ya.